coming in today. We'll pass the microphone around. We're going to start. We've got head coach Allison Lawrence with us. Picked up the first win of the season against Binghamton. A couple of tough opponents in Buffalo and DePaul as well. So kind of just your thoughts on the trip to New York and you're at the halfway point of the non-conference. So where do you stand so far?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was a great weekend. And I think sometimes it sounds funny to say a 1-2 weekend. It was a great weekend, but how we plan preseason and what we want to see out of it is growth and tools gained for conference play. And so we played teams that are going to compete in their conference to be in the top 3. I think Buffalo this year with 9 seniors and some pretty outstanding athletes, I think could contend to win the MAC. And so, yeah, it was great to see that level of competition. And I was really pleased with what it pulled out of our group as the weekend went on. I think ball control and first contact stuff that you don't see in stats necessarily in the box score always is we finished the tournament passing and first contacting at a higher quality than we started. And even though we started with a win, it felt like a really up and down momentum match that didn't feel awesome. And so I think we ended up feeling better in our last match, even though it was a loss to DePaul, a really tough DePaul team. So I think a lot of growth, and growth is painful. And we knew that growth this year would require some pain. And I think we're feeling that as we butt up against kind of our new standard and fall short. But I think it's ultimately pushing us further than we've been. So it's exciting.
Starting off with the home tournament, I mean, what was that experience like, and just the competition brought in, bringing the number 5 team in the country, like, just what was it like to kind of start the season, just seeing a couple killers like that? Yeah,
it was hard to prepare for, honestly, just emotionally. I think for the group there was excitement, and then there was also, this, I don't know, kind of confusion on like where should we put our focus, because it's not useful to me to say, all right, our only focus is to upset the number 5 team in the country. I don't think that's productive for us mentally, and so we had to compartmentalize our game into parts that we could control and really wanting to tease out the volleyball pieces that we wanted to execute well. And then I think when you play a team like that, it pulls the best out of you because you have the chip on your shoulder a little bit. You're playing in front of women or with women that are role models and people you look up to and people you might see on TV in the national championship. So you want to be at your best in that kind of arena. So I think it pulled good stuff out of us. I didn't love our first effort against Rio Grande Valley. We just looked tight and frazzled, and it's never fun to play that way, and it's never fun to coach that way. So I think we rebounded from that, though, and finished against BYU feeling really loose, really physical, and I think anybody who came and watched that match felt like we played a good game and were pushed in ways that we really need to be. So it was a fun weekend.
The growth between first tournament and the second tournament, what were maybe some of the things you noticed? Did you notice the team could maybe kind of loosen up a little bit? Is that what maybe led to that win over Binghamton? Or what was the biggest change from the first tournament to the Buffalo one?
Yeah, I think a little bit of looseness. I think anytime you're out of your home gym and you just feel, I don't know, you feel a little bit more of that sense that it's just us. There's something about opening at home with a lot of expectations from last year that just, I think, messed with our minds a little bit. And I think that's just part of what you have to learn to navigate as a team that was very successful coming off a successful year. Is there's more and more pressure to succeed again, to do better. And so I think wrestling with that at home first weekend out of the gate was tough, so it was nice to kind of get away and be in a neutral gym against Binghamton. So I do think we played looser. It was 3 flights and 2 time zones away, so there were parts of that where I think we were a little like, whoa, this is, we don't feel as rested as we could as we were at home. But Binghamton is a contender to win their conference, and I think it just was confidence building to settle in and in kind of a quiet gym and just focus on us. So yeah, I think looser is a good way to put it.
You guys had a ton of tournaments last year too, and just you start this season with a pair of them. How much do the tournaments just help you prepare for like conference play and just kind of get you in the rhythm of college volleyball again?
Yeah, I think 2 things. Once you get out of fall camp, you really you need to learn through matches, and so I think that's the biggest thing. Is you don't stop learning in your own gym, but it just becomes so predictable because we know each other so well. So I think getting an opponent you just learn leaps and bounds more, and you see us change more. So that's really important in volleyball. You play as many as you can before conference, and then also the 3 matches across 3 days mimics our conference tournament. And so being able to repeat efforts and being able to repeat back-to-back performances and the physical load in that mimics the end of the season. So there's through lines through that too. Once we settle into conference, we always have the day in between, but I think it's an important mental challenge and also a mental tone to set as we carry that in and hopefully hope to go deep in the tournament.
And something about 5-set matches. I don't know what it is. I can only imagine.
Me either. No.
Yeah. What is it though? Between
Yeah.
last season, this season, the group changes, but your success in that situation still remains the same. How do you think this group continues to find ways to win those matches?
Yeah, it's funny. I asked myself that same question because I think we are a team that last year and in the beginning of this year is prone to big swings in momentum, which doesn't serve you well in a 5th set. But there's something about the 5th set being so much shorter. I mean, really, it's a stupid thing to say, but it is. It's so much shorter, and I think it allows us to just have a concentrated effort that we must manage really well. And so I think what we found last year is we got into, points 13 through 18, and we would see these mental lapses, or we would see a surge from the opponent and some breakdowns on our side. And so I really think that middle part of our game is where we last year needed to focus, and maybe this year as well. So I think it's just part of how we sustain pressure, and there's something about a 5th set where our mentality shifts into, okay, we only have 15 points and we have to execute. There can't be any lapses, and we grab onto that. So we're capable, and it's my job to figure out how to translate that into a 25-point set.
And kind of jumping off Kyle's question, with all the tournaments, you go to New York, you go to Grand Forks, you go to Boise.
Mm-hmm.
How does that time on the road help kind of build the cohesion with this group, being away from home and having those moments in the hotel with your team?
Yeah, no, I like that question. It's all we spend so much time together on the road, and there's no substitute for time together in building chemistry. It's one thing to be in the gym and be under pressure and be playing volleyball, but it's another thing to be seeing Niagara Falls. And I think, as silly as that sounds, together time helps us focus on, well, not focus, but it's such a good reminder that as people, we really love each other's company, and we're people driven and supported by a united front in our goals. We have the same goals as each other. So to then just enjoy each other's company, I think only deepens that relationship on the court. And so as a coach, you try to create moments on the road where we can be together, not studying, not watching film, but actually just enjoying being together. And I think that relieves some of the stress from just being so performance focused too. So it's a fun part, and I think as I went through that a long, long time ago, but I think it's some of the things you take with you for the rest of your life is just the memories you have when it's just your team in a van, and nobody really gets to see that but you.
I know it's always team first, but from an individual standpoint, everyone knows about Paige and Carly, but Maddie Kramer has taken an elevated role, especially last weekend. Talk about her play and maybe any other individuals that have stood out in the first couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, and I'm so impressed with Maddie Kramer, and I think to go from the role she had last year, which was she played sparingly, to playing 6 rotations as a left side that's getting picked on in serve receive. She gets targeted a lot by opponents serving. I think is just such a testament to her resilience and her preparedness over her last 2 years. And so she's a high flyer. You come watch her. She's kind of the quintessential pin attacker that is so fun to watch. She's flying through the air. She's super powerful, very graceful. So I think just her ability to push and learn, and I think the growth in her from second weekend tournament to first weekend tournament it's really exciting. So I think you're seeing an athlete that's going to kind of break into that all-conference level scene and conversation. And I don't even know if she knows that yet. It's happening before her eyes too, but it's because of who she is in all areas of her life. So I think that's really exciting, giving our team a ton of stability and confidence. Ellie's another one. She got all tournament at our first tournament. She swept all tournament last year, and so I think she's constantly proving that she comes back ready to go after summer. And I just see a new presence in her as a senior. I've loved seeing Katie and Ellie and Sarah as seniors, their presence. And I think what I've loved about our senior classes these last 2 years, and you see it even more this year, is this, there's a real sense that they're savoring everything. And I think that that's a gift downward to the classes beneath them that is a good reminder that this goes fast. And so I think it really bonds this group that we will never be this group again. And I think that's such a gift from seniors. So I didn't say Jackie Howell in that just because with her injury, she'll have another year to compete. So she's kind of in that senior in terms of wisdom, but not quite the senior class in that way. But she's one of our seniors too, providing that. So yeah.
Third preseason tournament coming up here this weekend up in North Dakota, Grand Forks. Everyone wants to go there, of course. But just give us a preview. Green Bay, New Mexico, North Dakota, 1 match per day. What are you kind of expecting? What are the priorities for you?
Yeah, I think this tournament is a really good opportunity for us to have a strong showing. I think all of the teams in this tournament are fighting to be breakout teams in their conferences. New Mexico has had kind of the most dramatic trajectory upward and is really well coached, and I think having more and more breakout seasons, that's going to be a tough match. North Dakota is now, believe it's second year under a new coach, and so big changes, I think, every year, but still, a team that's kind of young in a system, but I think really hungry to reestablish where they were when they were in the Big Sky and kind of dominating a couple of years ago. So I don't know what to expect from them, but I expect like big changes just as that staff has had a full year to be there. And then I think, Green Bay's, we played them, I think, 2 years ago at that same tournament and went 5, and it was this barn burner match. And so I think they play a lot like us, and they're used to having a lot of success in their conference. So I expect all these matches could be just 5-set, craziness. But I think that's exactly where we need to be. And I know we're hungry to have a big response from last weekend.
To go back to your opening statement, what are some of the more difficult things that you're asking them to do this year, the higher standards that you're asking from them that are causing some of those growing pains that you talked about?
Yeah, I think it's the tougher preseason schedule. I think, last year we planned a preseason schedule that on paper, at least, you never know what's going to happen in games, obviously, but on paper, I thought we would come out with definitely 500, hoping to be closer to 700 or 800 out of that. And so I think this year the schedule was the intent was I'm going to schedule teams that would be at the top or win our conference. And I don't know how on paper what will happen. And so I think that's the challenge, is to feel like we will move through a spot where we will fall short. I think we are right now. This last league weekend, we felt like we had a goal. We fell short of it. And can we not get stuck there? Can we push through in a way that we're a conference tournament ready team for the first Big Sky match? And I think that sense of urgency to be ready for the top of our conference is a lot different than last year, where our urgency was, are we ready to beat the teams below us when we start conference? So in my mind, that sounds like a subtle difference, but in my mind, that's like a whole universe different of what we're trying to do this year.
No, absolutely. What did you think about what Nebraska did with the matches at the football stadium? Did you watch that?
I did. It was incredible. Like, we all watched it. I think you couldn't watch it and not get goosebumps. I think it's an amazing step forward for women, female athletes, women in sports, just spectators who, I guess, as consumers, watch women's sports. And I think it shows that there is a market for, like, women's sports and people wanting to watch it, and fans wanting to go experience it live. And Nebraska's been a driver of that. Just their attendance is so huge, and Nebraska's a big volleyball state. But I think we have to really change the narrative on women in sport, not only as consumers, but as athletes, and how we talk about how valuable our contributions are to the larger sport culture. And Nebraska's doing that kind of like this as a flex, in a way that is just so fun, and you want to be a part of it. Those athletes are magical to watch. And I hope our team watched that and was inspired to think like that kind of change can happen everywhere and they can be a part of it too. So.
Well, you guys have gotten that rolling a little bit here too. I'm thinking about the season opening tournament with you guys, and then of course the soccer team against Ohio State, also setting attendance records, right?
Yeah. I think the narrative's changing for sure. But I also think, I don't know, that's why I love living in Missoula. That's why I love Griz Nation. I think part of that, it's not just, it doesn't just happen on a national scale and then sort of trickle down into communities. I think communities like ours build that, and I think you saw that in Nebraska from like way before, and I think you've seen that being worked on here for a long time. It needs support, it needs structural support, it needs money. Like they have a lot of money. There's lots of things in place there to support that kind of growth, but you need people who are passionately connected to the athletes. They need to be like in people's living rooms in a different way, and I think you see potential for that here. And that's why we stress for our team to go out into the community and be known and hang out after matches and not just be sort of this distant role model, but to actually be like bound with the fans on what we're doing and rely on them, but in a really human way. So yeah, it's exciting. I don't have all the answers, but it's I think there's so much potential we haven't even reached yet. I like that question. Thank you.
I wanted to jump back to Jackie Howell, of course. Like you said, would have been graduating with all these other girls like Ellie, like Katie, but won't get that chance. When you have a player, especially a senior, who has to deal with an injury like this, and not get the chance to have the same season to go out as some of her other classmates, I guess as a coach, how do you deal with that? How do you help the player, I guess, adjust? And I assume they play a lot of a sideline role, a lot of a coaching and helping the younger players. I guess, what do you do as a coach to help kind of keep that, help that player adjust, and then also help them prepare for that next season when they'll actually hopefully get to play and get to live out their senior season?
Yeah, I think it's tricky. I think it's really hard on the athlete, and it's a really lonely place to be injured, especially when you have so much experience and, your senior year is emotional anyway. So I think as a coach, what you try to do is just involve their perspective and involve their voice as much as you possibly can. So, when they're healthy enough to watch practice and be in practice, then it's more of a coaching role, or at least giving, emotional and tactical support to teammates so that you're at least playing some on-court roles that you used to. And then you just keep the goals right in front in the everyday kind of vision and forefront of your mind. But that takes a lot. That takes a lot from the athlete to kind of do a lot of things when no one's around, unfortunately, and to be committed to themselves long term. I think it's really, really difficult, but it makes you miss the sport and cherish your health in new ways. And I think that perspective can add so much strength to an athlete. And you're seeing it in Maddie Chewy, who was out for so long, and now, I've never seen her jump so high or be so strong. So I think you see good things come out of it when the mentality is right and the resources are there, and I think we do such a great job of that here. And so, yeah, I think she just needs to know we love her and we want her around, and she's such a huge part of what makes this team, and that's there no matter whether she's playing or whether she's out still. So we got to live it every day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Allison.
Thank you, guys.